What is up, Dolphins fans? Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Dolphins versus the World. And as always, we're joined by our producer, Joel, and Anthony is here with me again today, my co-host. Anthony, how are you feeling, man?
I am feeling good, man. Excited that we get to watch the Dolphins play football again this week on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of Monday Night Football, I think that's almost where we should start on. The Jags suffer a loss to the Bengals that I did not see coming at all. So that was big, but even bigger. Looks like a high ankle sprain was the official diagnosis to Trevor Lawrence. Looked a bit worse than it was, I think, just because of him falling back down on the field. And then for whatever reason that they not getting a card, I believe he tweeted out like that was his choice, which doesn't make sense at all. But that's besides the point. Either way, that's big for the Jags. I think, like, even if he comes back this week, which he was limited in practice, so we'll see. I think that kind of takes him out of the 1 seed race for sure. And they have the division for them to worry about now, because even CJ Beathard, I think that's how you say his name, the backup quarterback, was banged up too. So it could be looking at a third string playing for the Jags this weekend. So just crazy in the NFL right here down the stretch.
Yeah, man. I you never want injuries, and understand that that's where I'm coming from. But at the same time, I mean, like, it's kind of crazy how everything's fallen in the AFC, like you're talking about. I mean, and this is why it's always weird or hard to do predictions at the beginning of the season, because like things can change so much. And I have no idea like what the long term that like what it's going to look like long term for the Jaguars, because I think you had mentioned and how much of it is true, because obviously we're just going off of what we read. But like he could possibly play this weekend against the Cleveland Browns, which, I mean, that's just not what I would do. Let's just say that. But they got 2 hard games coming up, I think, against the Ravens and the Browns, right? I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, yeah, I mean, that right there is huge, because,
Ravens
with the bank. Yeah. So like, with the Ravens having lost, and, the Chiefs lose, and they're going to be playing the Bills, and there's that whole aspect. Really the Dolphins are sitting there, and it's like, I mean, we have 2 winnable games coming up. And then after that, the fact that we play the Ravens is going to have a huge impact in the playoffs. But, certainly with Trevor Lawrence going down, even if it's only for 2 games, I mean, if they lose those 2 games, that kind of would probably make the race to that first seed have 1 less team in it, because I don't think really anyone from the AFC South would be able to get it, unless, like team like the Texans or something like keeps winning or something happens. But nonetheless, things have kind of shaped up in the AFC in a way to where, like, this is the year, man. If you're going to do something, now is the best time. The Bills aren't as good as people maybe thought, not myself, but not as good as people thought. The Ravens are good, but, we'll see. They have something to be proven in the playoffs. The Chiefs, having lost a couple of games they probably shouldn't have. And then obviously now with Jacksonville. So it'll be interesting to see how these next 5 weeks shake out.
Yeah, that's it's a lot still to be played, but I think it's hard if you're a Dolphins fan right now to not look ahead, honestly, just because it's such an unfamiliar place, like, and not to look too far ahead, as I don't want to do that. Like, I had a lot of big theme I saw just on Dolphins Twitter kind of day was just like, enjoy the moment. And I think that's 100% right. Like, these are uncharted waters for, people that I associate with who are Dolphins fans, like our age.
Right.
This has never happened before. So, it's fun to look ahead, but like the Cowboys, for example, I don't see why you shouldn't win that game. And then that makes a lot, like, everything for the Dolphins, if they win that game, is there for the taking in the last 2 games. But the Cowboys, They play the Eagles, which is going to be a really tough game. I think we could all agree on that. last week they had a tough game with the Seahawks, and then next week they play the Bills, and that's 3 brutal games in a row. And then as we saw with the Eagles, they kind of just ran out of gas against the Niners. Like I think the Niners are still better, but I mean they just put it on the Eagles, and 3 tough games in a row for them too. So I think the Dolphins are catching the Cowboys in a great spot, and I think it's a game you got to take advantage of, especially considering the opponents this week and next week.
Yeah, I mean, especially if the hope is to get as many home playoff games for every team, to get as many home playoff games. I mean, I think we can kind of all, unless something crazy happens, just the math is mathing the right way of the Dolphins at least winning the division. So then you look at the next step, and that would be to get as high of a seed as possible between 1 and 4. And, I've said my belief is that you and I both said this multiple weeks back at the bye week, that if the Dolphins won those next 5 games and the Bills lost 2 of their next however many they play till the end of the season, then we will clinch the division by the Cowboys game. But then it's going to get to the point where it's like, okay, well, you can't just take those last 3 games off. Like there's going to be a legitimate chance that the Dolphins can go out there and claim the number 1 seed. Or even if it's not the number 1 seed, you never know what's going to happen when the number 1 seed plays the 5 seed or whatever, whenever they play in that second week. So like, let's just get as high of a seed as possible, because it's just because you have the second seed doesn't mean that you're never going to have all home playoff games. It just means that if the 1 seed never loses, then you'll never have one. But who knows? Whoever that 1 seed is, we've seen it happen before with the Packers, where they get that 1 seed and they lose their first game, and then that 2 seed becomes then the highest one. So let's just try to get as high of a seed as possible. And obviously it starts this week, winning a game against the Titans.
Yeah, definitely. It's not bad to have the 1 seed. There's kind of been like just, with the bye week, I think that's the biggest thing. Obviously, like just not having to play a game. There's so much that can happen, and it's unpredictable football. And then just not having to play a game is the biggest thing. But like some people just worry about it because then the rest, thing. But whatever. Like worry about that when you do. Like you said, the goal, just get as many home games secured as you can.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then most likely, just the way it's looking, that first weekend, you're probably going to be facing a backup quarterback, which if you're playing a backup quarterback in the playoffs at home, those chances don't come around very often. They are more and more, it seems, but you got to take advantage of that when it comes, like bottom line.
Well, my thing is, and this is what I don't want to happen. I don't want it to be the Dolphins going into that first week. You clinched your division going into the Cowboys game, and then you kind of just sucked the rest of the season. You end up 11-6, and you're sitting there at, the 4th seed, having to play the 7th seed, which is the Bills, because you lost to them the last game, and now you're playing them, even though it's in Miami. Because I've said this many times, I am not a fan of division playoff games. I think they are complete wild cards. And I know it's the wild card round, but if you are a division team good enough to get in the playoffs and you're facing another division team good enough to get in the playoffs, that means it's a pretty level playing field. And I think the Bills would say the same thing. You look at last year, Skyler's our quarterback. We almost win. That was probably took 5 years off the Bills' life right there, Bills fans' lives, because it was like, oh my God, are we going to lose to Skyler Thompson because they're a division opponent? The last thing I want is to win the division and then be like, oh yeah, but who cares if we lost the last 3? Like, if you're going to lose to Dallas, which I don't think we will, if you're going to lose to the Ravens, which I know people say a lot about the Ravens, but I don't know. Like, I for some reason in my mind, like I think the Dolphins I think they'll be fine with the Ravens, to be honest with you. And then you look at the Bills game, it's like the Bills game, honestly, out of those last 3 is the one I think we're most likely to lose, if I'm being honest. Like, I think.
Just sorry to cut you off, but what's interesting is like the Bills could win out and miss the playoffs. Like there's a lot of scenarios where the only way they could get in would be to win the AFC East, which is still a slim possibility. The
Right.
Dolphins would drop the last 3, and the Bills would have to win every game.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting to the point now though where you see what needs to happen. Like we're deep in the season now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's flown by, honestly.
Yeah. It's crazy that we're even in this scenario. And I hope that, 5 weeks from now, we are talking about, or 6 weeks from now, we're talking about the Dolphins hosting their first home playoff game. And honestly, I mean, regardless of who we play, I think it'll be cool to host a playoff game. And we'll probably know, when did I say? December 17th. So literally 10 days from now to the hour, because it's 4:09 my time, which actually it'll be earlier. So in less than 10 days, by a couple hours, we might know already that we clinched our division, which is it's really cool. Last time we had a home playoff game, we got our asses whooped by the Baltimore Ravens in '09. So, take it with a grain of salt, but hopefully we can get a home playoff game for the first time in 14, it'll be 15 technically, 15 years, which is crazy to say. um but yeah, but again, it starts this week. You still have to take care of business, just because we both expect the Titans to win. These are the type of
Oh,
games,
it's at the
or
Titans.
just because we expect the Titans to lose. You're like, hold up, wait a second. um, these are the type of games we saw it with that. This has been the Bills' season. This has been the Chiefs' season so far. This is why the Dolphins are the number 1 seed. You lose the games you're supposed to win, and you find yourself sitting there being like, coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? And that's why I've always said, yes, I understand the Dolphins haven't beaten anyone crazy good, but there needs to be something said about them taking care of business against the bad teams. And I have zero doubt or zero belief in my mind that they're gonna take this game lightly. I don't. I think they're gonna stay focused on this game. They smell the blood in the water, and they're trying to take care of business.
Yeah, I agree with you. And look, if like the focus is going to be there, but yeah, I don't think they're going to take this game lightly either.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
just it's hard to win, man. Like to discredit the Dolphins for beating anyone, it's something you really shouldn't do. But I mean, like we said, like a couple weeks ago, the Packers were dead in the water, and now all of a sudden they look like they just beat the Chiefs, and everyone feels good. Jordan Love could be the future. Like things can change quick, so the Dolphins haven't like had a completely bad performance yet this year, like where they just no showed in a game, like, and that's a
Right.
sign of
Right.
like when you're always locked in, like you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, it starts with the Titans, and the season for the Titans has been an interesting one, to say the least. Started off with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, and then briefly Malik Willis was quarterback. Now it's Will Levis. Looks like it's going to be that way for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, just his first game at quarterback, people were really impressed, like
Yeah.
myself included. It was a great performance.
Right.
But since then, he has regressed, and he has gotten worse every game.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got a chance to watch him last week, so I don't know how he played. I know the score was like pretty close, so he may have had a good game, but I think just the story is, you got a rookie quarterback that you got film on, who's not great at reading the field. Take advantage of it. It all starts there. Force some turnovers, if possible. But yeah, I think when you're looking at the Titans, you got to start with Will Levis.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, rookie quarterback, we'll see what he's able to do. He was my second ranked quarterback coming out, behind CJ Stroud, because to me, the talent is through the roof. So I had him above Bryce Young, and that was just my opinion. I was a little shocked he went in the second round. Um, but yeah, like you look at the rookie quarterback, and to me, like he has a lot of wow, but when I look at the Titans offense, there's not a lot there to where I go, that wow can turn into something, if that makes sense. And you look at his first game, he had like 200 something odd yards passing and 4 touchdowns. And it was like, whoa, we came on the scene. But I think since then, I'm going to look up his stats real quick. I'm pretty sure since then he's had like not even 4 touchdowns.
Yeah. He's had some low scoring games after that, from what I remember.
Yeah. So he's had 7 touchdowns this season, and 4 of them came in his first game, and he's played 5 games since then. So he's had 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns in 5 games. Now I will say something about him, which is a good thing. It's never a bad thing. He does not turn over the football. As a rookie playing 7 games, I believe, or how many games? 6 games. He's only had like 2 turnovers, I think, 2 or 3 interceptions. So he does keep the ball clean, which, that's very important. That's going to keep your team in a lot of games. But again, I just look at the Titans offense and I go, Derrick Henry's still good, but I don't know if he's necessarily what he was. DeAndre Hopkins is not what he was. And I don't really see anything on this offense to me that it's kind of like when we played the Giants. Similar if Saquon was in there. It's the same thing. Maybe a Josh Jacobs, when we played the Raiders, but I don't even think DeAndre at this level is where Devontae is. But it's kind of like the same thing. I just don't look at their team and go, man, they have a lot of superstars to really affect the outcome of this game. You factor that in with they're playing a Dolphins defense that at the current moment through the last, I don't even know how many weeks, since week 5, we're like top 5 in every statistical category. Just not necessarily a recipe for success, in my opinion, for them. But certainly, yeah, with any team, when you have a quarterback of that talent, you have to neutralize it for sure.
Yeah, so I think our defense here is honestly going to just put like the rest of the league on notice. Like this will be the first primetime game. We played the Jets, but
yeah, but that's no disrespect for the Jets. It's just like I didn't mean that like but at the same time, it's like I don't think anyone saw the Dolphins take care of Tim Boyle and go, wow,
that's a high school offense.
Like, you know what I mean? Maybe if it was like I guess like Zach Wilson, even kind of, which we'll probably play him next week. But yeah, I agree with you. This is going to be the first primetime game against a rookie quarterback or against a team that is still like pretty good to where hopefully they can show up.
Yeah. And I think they're just going to like show up and put everyone on notice. Like I think a lot of people are still sleeping on the defense. And how can you not, like when the offense is just so explosive? But I think like this will be the time where everyone kind of like the national media is like, we aren't talking about how good the Dolphins defense is.
Right.
And then they got another week against the Jets, and then there'll be a real test. But yeah, I expect another great performance from this defense, even without Jerome Baker. That's going to be a tough one, but I mean, we'll see. I don't know who they put there. I don't think you go back to Van Ginkel at linebacker, though. He's making too much of an impact.
I think it'll be Duke Riley.
Yeah,
I would think. But anyway, speaking of injuries, I might as well pull this up while we're at it. I haven't even looked at it until right now, if I'm being completely honest. I've been a little busy all day, so I haven't even looked at it.
I'm having a hard time seeing it.
Yeah, hold on. Let's see. Is this? I'm trying to see if that's not helping. Well, I wish I could zoom in a little more. But anyway, Tron's on there. I mean, he's been on there every week since like his rookie year. Jerome's on there. He'll probably be out a couple of weeks. I would expect Jerome to miss about 4 weeks. If he comes back, I think it'll be like they'll see if he's able to come back by like maybe the Ravens game, but probably the Bills game. Unless like they have nothing to play for, which I highly doubt it, to where they might just say rest until the playoffs. Let's see. Tyreek vet rest. I don't care about that. Lamb and Mostert vet rest. Who else is DMP on there? Durham Smythe is a DMP that's not vet rest. I don't know what the hell is going on with Javon Holland. If I'm being honest, I get pissed off with those type of injuries because like no one's talking about it. I don't know if you were that way, but I get pissed off whenever I see stuff like that. I'm like, if it's that bad of an injury to where you didn't practice all of last week, you didn't play, and now you're still not practicing, like why do we, at least I don't think we know anything about this. Like, I'm like, it kind of does annoy me if I'm being honest. Like, it's not like he's been limited, and it's like the dude didn't play and he hasn't practiced in like 4 of the last 5 practices. So what's going on there? So I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have much to say on that because, like you said, it's been so secretive.
Right.
I don't know what it is. I don't know. I couldn't tell you in the slightest, honestly. Like, if they're the reason, they wouldn't be talking about it, unless
And
it's
it's
for the foreseeable future.
but yeah, and it's also like, like McDaniel, like I want to know how bad it is, and this is why it's almost like the boy who cried wolf with McDaniel's injury, because like he'll put stuff on there where it's like, you didn't practice all week, but you're like you're fine. But then there's like, I'm like, is Javon, like, is this one of those where like you're just around and you're like, yeah, we'll just put DNP, like we'll just rest him because he's fine, or is this like, and he's actually injured, DNP? Because that's what I'm saying. Like, I can understand you didn't play him against the Commanders because you didn't really need him, but at the same time, like, shouldn't he be limited at this point? Like, you're telling me he did not practice at all, and it's not even vet rest. He did not practice. Like, that to me it's getting weird to me, in my opinion, that he hasn't practiced now. He didn't practice Wednesday. He didn't practice Thursday. Friday, he was limited. And then today, which is the first practice of the week because we play Monday, he was DNP. Like, that to me is weird, but I don't know.
Yeah, injuries are, the more I think about it, they're like hard to just get a read on what's going on. Like, if you think back to Byron Jones, like that was a really just weird situation that I don't even know still really what happened there. Like,
I don't think you wanted to play football.
Maybe that explained a lot, because I did not get it at all. But
yeah, I don't think you want to play for the Dolphins anymore. I think he's just like, I'm injured. I'm not coming back till I'm ready, and I don't have much guaranteed money, so I'm not playing.
Hey, fair play to him. But yeah, going back to the game, offensively, I think it should be not the same game as the Commanders, but I think this is an easy team to pass on.
Yeah.
And what was the injury status there of Simmons?
He didn't practice.
Okay. Yeah, that's key. It sounds like he's going to miss.
Yeah.
I believe you said it, like he's probably their best defensive player.
Yeah, I'm trying. I know they have other guys. I'm not saying like he's the only guy on defense that's good. I'm just saying, like, game changers, I don't really know anyone on their defense that's a game. I'm talking about game changer, not like a solid player. I'm talking about game changer. I don't know anyone other than him.
Yeah, same here.
So,
and we'll see. I think this just should be another game offensively where you do what you want. Yeah, I mean, if I'm the Titans, I try to keep the ball out of the Dolphins' hands, because I don't see how they have a route to stopping us.
Yeah. To me, for the Dolphins offense, similar to last week, we'll talk about it. Honestly, I might as well, if you're good with that, I might as well pull up our keys to victory and we can kind of like talk about them. But I guess I'll talk about my 2 offense things. Why not? I'll talk about like my 2 offense things on here. Actually, all of my things are offense. But like, for me on the Dolphins offense, it's going to be with teams like this. It's always going to be the same thing. You got to limit the turnovers, because you don't want to give this, because the Titans brand of football is the Patriots brand. It's what we did against the Giants. It's all those similar styles where they're going to try to make the game ugly. They're going to try to keep it a low scoring affair because they can't get into a shootout. And the only way you can combat that, if you're the Dolphins, is to limit those turnovers. You can't give these guys extra opportunities. And I think Tua last week did a great job of limiting the turnovers. He played a clean game. I think that's a big reason why you saw such efficiency and why we were able to put up 45 points. I know we've talked about the pass game, and rightfully so. And I put on there, spread the love on offense, because for the love of God, I know you want to get Tyreek to 2,000, but let's not let that get in the way of the fact that if you spread the love to both Tyreek and Jalen, this offense is borderline unstoppable. So definitely, yeah, I expect a big game from Tua. But also at the same time, I don't necessarily expect it's not as bad as the Commanders, in my opinion. They still are a well-coached defense. It's just how much talent do they really have? But the point I want to get to is similar to what we saw against the Commanders, especially at the end of the game. Don't abandon the run, because if you're just going to go pass happy and just throw the ball all over the field, number one, if it does work, you're just going to put your defense out there, which is going to make them more tired. But number two, chances are when you throw the football, it's either going to be an incompletion, which stops the clock, or an interception. You run the football. Obviously, yes, there's a fumble, but it's always going to churn the clock forward. So to me, the key to this Dolphins offense moving forward is if you play clean football, if you don't abandon the run. I'm not saying have a 150-yard run day, but don't abandon it. Let them respect it. And you make yourself versatile in the passing game and not just throw to Tyreek every play. I don't really see many teams that are going to be able to stop us. So those are my three keys, but specifically for the Dolphins offense.
Yeah, totally agree with you. I'll just start with the limiting the turnovers since we both have them. Yeah, I agree. Like the way you'll lose this game is if somehow you lose a turnover battle 3-0,
Right.
and get extra possessions. Like that'd be the only way I could see this, the Dolphins losing this game. Like I truly believe like if in this game, in their current state, these two teams, if the Dolphins are 100% focused on this game, which they are, they beat the Titans 10 times out of 10. They are so much better than them. Like if our focus is on this game and not, everything going around, like all the hard knocks, the 1 seed, what's going on with the Bills, like we can do this because we're going to know on Monday, like, we win 2 more games, we could clinch a division. Like, and then that's when external factors, like you lose focus on the game. But if you're focused, I don't see how they lose this. Lastly, I tempo. I feel like I've been putting the same sort of stuff here. So I was just kind of trying to switch it up. But yeah, like you said, like just sticking to the run, and controlling the game. Like there's been multiple times this year where the Dolphins have had like 7-8 minute drives. Like that just sucks absolute life out of a game, especially when you're playing these inferior teams like that don't have a star quarterback or explosive plays on the other side of the ball. Like,
Yeah.
And the way the defense is playing, when teams have to methodically move down the field, like they aren't going to be able to do it. They're going to make mistakes, or we're going to get a sack. Like stop the drives. Like truthfully, if you could just control the clock in this game, like this team is so good, and like just the run and the pass when married together and they're working well, it's unbelievable. Like they're playing so well.
Right.
And
Right.
they got to continue doing it. Build this into Dallas and then Baltimore, Buffalo, and then peak in the playoffs.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the defense too. I'll take away since we got our 3 keys out of the way with the offense and stuff. But on defense, the Titans are quietly the 5th most sacked team in the NFL. They're giving up about 3.5 sacks a game. Now, a lot of that's going to have to do with the fact that they don't have the greatest talent, but a lot of that's going to have to do with they have a rookie quarterback who takes a lot longer to process. And to me, I think that this is a type of game where I do not look at their weapons on the boundary, and they don't scare me at all. I think Jalen and X, there's not many teams to where they are going to challenge our secondary significantly. Obviously there's the can't even put the Bengals on there because of the quarterback now. But there's like the Eagles. I guess you could say the Cowboys probably have a good one. I'm talking like actual contenders. Obviously, the 49ers pose problems for every phase of your defense. But most teams are not going to pose a problem, regardless of if we have Javon or not, because you have Jalen Kohu, who's one of the better slot corners in the NFL, and X on the boundary. So to me, the key for this is that front 7. If they can dominate against a weaker offensive line and a rookie quarterback, I think you're going to see a similar results to what we've seen really the last, how many? I don't even know. Since week 5. Really, since week 5, what you've seen, I think, is what you'll continue to see. Um, and with Derrick Henry, I don't really know what the situation is with him. He apparently, it was rumored that he got a concussion, and then Mike Vrabel came out and was like, "No, he doesn't have concussion." That sounds, again,
Yeah.
as a
Right.
Dolphin fan, we know, like,
Yes.
that just sounds not good. Um, and I hope for his sake that they do what's best for him. Uh, Not because I don't want him to play. I think they'll still lose even if he plays. So I'm trying to maybe save him a little here. But
Yeah.
if he does play, I don't think Derrick Henry is what he used to be. I don't think their offensive line is good enough to really create the gaps. And I think that as long as you tackle him below the legs or below the hips, get his legs. Don't just try to tackle him on the upper body. I think we should be fine. Um, and quite honestly, with the defense that the Titans have, I don't really see this being a game where the Titans can win it just running the football and relying on Derrick Henry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So ultimately, I feel similar about this game as I did with the early Patriots when they weren't an absolute dumpster fire, with the Giants game, with
Can't watch
the
that game here soon.
right with the Raiders. It's similar to how I feel, to where I'm like, yeah, if you F around, you'll find out, right? We know the chart. But if you take care of business, limit the turnovers, limit the big plays, and just play clean football. It doesn't have to be sexy. That's the kind of thing I've loved about. I know with the Commanders, there's 2 bombs, but I kind of want the Dolphins to be comfortable, and I want fans to get comfortable with the Dolphins playing like boring football. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
have your exciting moments when you want, but you need to get comfortable winning boring games. And even I look at the Chiefs game, a prime example. That Chiefs game, both offenses were like way underwhelming for what we expected that game to be. It came down to a fumble return. That was the difference. So you got to get comfortable playing these low scoring, ugly games. And I think what we've seen with the Dolphins is that, hey, you might have 2 big shots that put you up 14 points, and then it's just a slow, methodical ass whooping. And if you just do your part, allow Fangio's defense to limit the big plays, you'll get the ball back. You'll have plenty of opportunities. Just play smart football. And, again, 1 touchdown turns into 2, turns into a fumble, turns into a short field. And all of a sudden you're sitting there in the third quarter and you have 34 points, right? So that leads into the points per game. I'll let you start. Speaking of 34-ish points, talk a little bit about your score prediction.
Yeah, I have 35-24, and the only reason I have 24 is just how this defense has been so good for so many weeks in a row. Like, I feel like they're just gonna have to take a step back here sooner or later. Like, uh, unless they're just still not at their peak, but like eventually it feels just like how long can the defense keep it up? So I'd like it to happen here and not in a week that matters, and then we kind of actually can see what this defense really is. But yeah, I think this is just going to be a domination. Like, I think we're going to be able to do what we want offensively, and they aren't going to be able to keep up. That's pretty much my whole thing. Maybe that's the 24 is it's a touchdown early and then 2 garbage time ones and a field goal mixed in there. That's a real sad one. Like when they're down 35-7.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I have the Dolphins winning 31-20. It's kind of hard to predict how many points the Dolphins are going to score if you just go off of what the defense of the other team has been allowing, because our offense is just different, especially when they're playing on, they're playing their best football. Technically, the Titans defense away is giving up 24 points a game. So I'm factoring in that extra Dolphins touchdown because we just have a better defense. Now, last week they gave up 31 points to Gardner Minshew. So if they gave up that many points, what's going to happen with Tua? So I like your 35 points. I don't see it scoring that much just because I guess I'm still thinking of Vrabel as like a coach that will keep the games close and stuff like that. So I'm going to do 31 points, which is what they gave up to the Colts. And then, similar with you, I almost put 24, but I was like, are the Dolphins really only going to win by a touchdown? Like, I know that sounds like it. I'm not trying to be braggadocious there. I'm not trying to be like, we're only going to win by a touchdown. That's embarrassing. You know what I mean? But like, at the same time, I just think we're on a different level. And typically I'm trying to think. Let's see what our points allowed is at home. Let's see. Points allowed, NFL defenses. So technically the Dolphins, by the way, since week 5 or since Jalen Ramsey's gotten back, we're giving up 13.2 points per game, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. But let's see. At home, our defense is giving up 17.4 points per game. So I don't think that's out of the ordinary to give them 20 points. I think that's about right. But yeah, I expect the Dolphins to win by 2 scores. And honestly, one of those touchdowns, like you said, might just be like a last ditch effort to try to come back. But yeah, I think Dolphins take care of business. And last thing I want to mention this real quick. After the game, I thought I don't know if you saw this past episode of Hard Knocks, but to me, it was the best episode that I've watched of the last 3. Like, I thought it was just overall the best one. And yeah, it was just like watching McDaniel's reaction. So I posted a clip on Twitter, and McDaniel on that first bomb to Tyreek, like, I thought, like, for me, I was like, man, they're lining up a slot corner who's a rookie with no safety help on Tyreek. Like, is that just me or is that just stupid? Like, am I the only one thinking that? And I don't know if you saw the clip, but McDaniel like watched it happen, and when he's watching, he's like, "Huh, all right, let's go." Like, he fully was just like, what the hell are you doing right now? Like, he didn't expect it at all. They cheated the safety towards Waddle's side. So I just thought it was a great episode of Hard Knocks, and I'm really enjoying it so far.
Yeah, I heard this one was the best one yet. I haven't watched it. I'm actually gonna probably watch it here. It's before I go to bed tonight. Was watch it with my dad here. So that's the reason I haven't yet. But the only other thing I did want to say, one last closing thing here, is the Dolphins did extend Austin Jackson. Kudos to him. Yeah, I think it's a good move. I would have thought this was a terrible move 2 years ago. But here we are, things change.
Right.
And I mean, I think it's just total credit to the offensive line staff, Butch Berry, Mike McDaniel. They're doing fantastic, honestly.
Yeah, Butch Berry, I hope to God that he's here for a long time. They better sign him to a long-year deal behind the scenes, because what he's done with everyone, even Lee Meikenberg, the last 3 games have been like above average. Like, not Connor Williams or Austin Jackson level right now, but they're definitely starter material. I don't know what the hell he's putting in their food or what he's telling them, but like, it's working. And yeah, I love the Austin Jackson move. I love it because I don't know one person who expected it. I don't know one person before the season. I don't know one person who was like, man, if they just stick with Austin Jackson, like, everyone was like, dude, like, I can't believe we're going to have him be Tua's blindside protector. But he has been, by far, in my opinion, the most consistent and reliable offensive lineman we have. I'm not saying when he's playing, he's our best, but you factor in no injuries, good play consistently, not a lot of pressures, not a lot of penalties. He's been great this season. He's playing on a Pro Bowl level. I don't know if he'll get in the Pro Bowl, but he deserves to. And the fact that you got him for $12 million a year is just crazy to me. I was getting to the point where I was like, what's going to happen with Austin Jackson? Because if he gets to the Pro Bowl, and honestly, that might be why they did it now. Yeah. If he goes to the Pro Bowl, that's going to move to 17, 18 in free agency.
And then it's
yeah. So he's now in like the top 30 of right tackles or offensive tackles, which is crazy.
Total bargain.
And with this offense, you and I have talked about it. The offensive line doesn't have as much to worry about because there's so much emotion to where the defense can't just rush you, and Tua gets the ball out of his hands so quickly. So, like, even if Austin Jackson doesn't give you the play he currently is at, and it's not as good, but still pretty good, the Dolphins will be fine. Like, Tua's done a great job of protecting himself. He's getting the ball out fast. And I think to lock down a tackle for the next 3 years for only $36 million is ridiculously good. So hats off to Austin Jackson for working hard, for getting in better shape, for playing better. And hats off to Chris Greer for.
You see what Tua said about that?
Did he comment on it?
Yeah, they asked him like what he thought. He basically like just Stuart Flores. He was like, to be in the meetings and have thoughts planted in your head that aren't true, and the media says stuff about you, and then you climb out and fight your way and play, rehabilitate yourself to be the best player like you
Wow.
have ever been. It was crazy to see it, like him say it, and it makes you think like
Right.
what was going on there. And he literally was like he even said to his head, he was like the entire team, like, that was here had to do that. I was like,
I've
holy.
heard I've heard from people that are in the know. I've heard some crazy stuff. I've heard some crazy stuff about Flores to where, again, I'm not hearing it from people in the building. I'm just
He'll
talking.
get
I
another head
used to,
coach's job.
right. I remember hearing things like stuff that Reason has told me, because Reason was on top of it from like very early on. I remember Reason the first he like did a show before the season started that year, and was like, hey, like he's like he was like, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, and everyone was like, whoa. So I reached out to him privately and asked some stories, and I remember him telling me some stuff where I was like, oh, that's and even as the season went along. Speaking of the Titans, there's a funny Titans story about him in the locker room, which I'll hear after some what I had. Yeah, anyway, but yeah, Flores wasn't the best. He was definitely a good coach, a good defensive mind. It's just he didn't really understand how to bring people together. So anyway,
On that, yeah, Dolphins fans, we got to stick together here because we got some big games coming up.
yep,
This one Monday being the first. And thank you, everyone, for listening up to this point. If you haven't already, please like, share, comment, subscribe. We really do appreciate it. We appreciate all
yeah,
the support. And thank you guys so much for watching. Fins up.
yeah. Fins up.